Hello everyone. This week we're going to talk about the work breakdown structure. It's how you organize the actual work of the project. You do this by organizing the work within a certain structure, and you organize it by major work areas with every successive piece of work until you get to the smallest piece that you actually describe. This is called the work breakdown structure format. Now here's what might happen if you have not planned your work using the work breakdown structure. Your train tracks might not meet. Something happened. Something didn't get planned right. Well, the work breakdown structure is a deliverable-oriented grouping of the work involved in a project that defines the total scope of the project. It is often portrayed graphically as a hierarchical tree. The work breakdown structure is a document that breaks all the work required for the project into discrete tasks and groups those tasks into a logical hierarchy. It's often shown in two different forms, chart form and tabular form. Let's take a look at these. Here's the WBS in a chart form. It shows graphically how the work is distributed in a graphic format. In this case, there's 4 levels of detail. Level 1 being the entire project. In this case, it's called intranet project. Level 2 is the major categories of work. These 5 categories are listed across and directly underneath the project name. For each of these major areas of work, there will be another level. This particular form lists the work being done in the concept area. So if you look at level 2, the first box is called concept. The second entry of this is the defined requirements work area. So if you look below the concept and the second entry to the right, it says defined requirements. Well, that's the second piece of work in the concept area. So we get successively smaller and smaller and smaller until we finally get to level 4, which is underneath the defined requirements, the smallest piece of work, which is actually the task itself, which you can describe in detail. Let's look at the numbering system that you're going to be using. There's a couple of different numbering systems that are mainly used. Let's look at and it doesn't really matter which one you use as long as you're consistent. In this case, the 5 major work areas, concept, web design, website development, so forth, are numbered 1 through 5. Within each of these, in this case, the number 1 in level 2, which is concept, underneath that we have a number of different subcategories of work. Evaluate current systems, define requirements. Well, that second one you'll notice is listed 1, which is because it's in the under the tree concept, and the second entry 1.2. Well, if you keep drilling down into the defined requirements, you'll see that the first task under defined requirements is 1.2.1, and then the successive task in the defined requirements task numbered as 1.2 are 1.2.2, 1.2.3, and 1.2.4. So you can see as you drill down, you're finally going to get to the lowest level, level 4, and these are the actual work tasks that's within the work breakdown structure. But they're categorized at different levels, from the 10,000-foot view, if you will, under concept, web design, website development, rollout, and support, to the level 3, where the subcategories of work are defined in each one of those 5 at level 2, and then finally into level 4, it's drilled down into the discrete work tasks. Let's look at this in from the chart form into the tabular form. You'll notice that the numbering systems are the same. With Microsoft Project, they have a little bit different numbering system from the Project Management Institute numbering system. You can use either one of these in your project as long as you stay consistent within that project. You know, as an example of a work breakdown structure that was probably one of the most intricate and detailed The example comes to mind of the Olympic Games in Salt Lake City. The 2002 Olympic Winter Games took 5 years to plan and cost more than $1.9 billion. The Project Management Institute awarded the Salt Lake Organizing Committee the Project of the Year Award for delivering world-class games that, according to the IOC, made a profound impact upon the people of the world. So you can see that good project management does and can and does make a difference. And you can imagine the enormous amounts of discrete tasks within all of these categories of work for that particular huge project. There's different approaches to developing work breakdown structures. Some organizations, like the Department of Defense, provide guidelines for preparing work breakdown structures. The first one, the analogy approach. This is where you review similar work breakdown structures of similar projects and then tailor those to your project. So you use the analogy approach. The top-down approach, the one that we're going to use, here's where you start with the largest items of the project, break them down into and this is how it was used in the previous examples. You break them down into successive smaller and smaller pieces of work until you finally get to the task that you can describe in detail. Bottom-up approach, it just works in reverse. Here's where you start with the specific task and roll them back up into successive larger pieces of work categories. And there's another approach called mind mapping you might have heard of. Mind mapping is a technique that uses branches radiating out from a core idea to structure thoughts and ideas. Let's look at an example of mind mapping. In this case, we have an IT upgrade project. The arm that's radiating out from the top right is called upgrade inventory. Upgrade inventory was considered a major category of work, and from within, as that is drilled down, it needed to perform a physical inventory and then update database. So that within the perform physical inventory, it was drilled down into 3 buildings then. So mind mapping software is a powerful tool for managing your projects. Mind maps are visually oriented and enables you to gather, manage, and share a large variety of information and resources quickly and easily, which makes them an ideal tool for managing projects. Mind mapping is a registered trademark of the Buzan organization. I have the website listed in my supplemental file. Let's look at this same work breakdown structure of this IT project and look at it in the work breakdown structure generated from the mind map. This is what you would use with that particular software. You notice the same information is still there. Let's compare the two. So you'll see upgrade inventory is listed in both cases, one in tabular form and one in graphic form. So there's a style difference. Some might be able to see it better as a graphic format, and some might prefer the tabular type format. But this is the example of how to use the mind mapping software if you so choose. Let's look at another example. In this case, it's a work breakdown structure of organizing a banquet. You notice banquet is at the level 1, the very top. And then at the second level, there's, in this case, 6 major areas of work: planning and supervision, the dinner itself, room and equipment, guests, staff, speakers, and they're labeled 1.1 through 1.6. And then there's areas of work underneath each one of those, and within each one of those, there could be different tasks also. So this is another top-down example of a work breakdown structure of a banquet. Creating a good work breakdown structure requires a lot of work. The project manager and the project team must decide as a group how to organize the work and consider how many levels to include in the work breakdown structure. You might want to take it to a level 4 or even a level 5 if you wanted to get that type of detail into your work breakdown structure. A lot of the times it's better to focus on getting the top levels of the work breakdown structure done well to avoid being distracted by too much detail. But it's certainly there available for you to put that type of detail into your project. Sometimes people confuse task on a work breakdown structure with specifications or think it must reflect a sequential list of steps. That's not it at all. You're actually defining areas of work in a hierarchical tree. If you wanted to get the very specifics of each one of the tasks, you would use what's called a work breakdown structure dictionary with different entries. This is simply a document that describes each work breakdown structure task in detail. It describes what is in each work breakdown structure element, and it may also say what is not in an element if it is unclear. The format can vary based on project needs. It might be appropriate to have just a short paragraph describing each work package, but for a more complex project, an entire page or more might be needed for the work package descriptions. I'm assuming that's what they probably used in that Winter Olympics project. This is the work breakdown structure dictionary entry. This is from the textbook, and if you look at the previous work breakdown structure in the chart format or the tabular format, if you follow the numbering system, this is WS item number 3.1.1.2. So you'll notice the project title, the item number, the item name, and a detailed description of the actual task. This is where you put the actual description of the task in detail. This particular one explains how to administer the survey. So you can see that you can put the detail in the dictionary entry. Now, I'm not requiring you to have a dictionary entry for our project, but this is definitely something that's used in professional projects, and this is the smallest discrete task that you would have in your work breakdown structure. When you get to that level, this is where you want to put the detail of the actual element. This compares the tabular format mentioned previously, and you can see that the item number 3.1.1.2 is listed from the dictionary item number, and it corresponds to the item number in the tabular format, as you can see in the example. Let's review. A work breakdown structure is a deliverable-oriented grouping of the work involved in a project that defines the total scope of the project. Here's the WBS in chart form. It shows graphically how the work is distributed in a graphic format. Here it is in tabular form. It shows in outline form how the work is distributed. There's different approaches to creating the work breakdown structure. The analog is in the Department of Defense fashion, top down, bottom up, and mind mapping. And then this is the mind mapping graphic itself, and it's a certain technique that's used. And then obviously the work breakdown structure dictionary. This is where you put the attention to the detail of the smallest level of work, which would be a task, and you put the description of each of those elements in the work breakdown structure dictionary entry. That's all for this week, and I will talk with you more next week.